About this a little bit, but we're going to talk about how failure is better than wimpy. This is targeted towards, well, I would say anybody getting into business, anybody who's in business, whatever, because it applies to everybody, and I think even your top dogs would talk about how this still applies to them, but failure is better than wimpy, so we'll get into what that means.
Yeah, wimpy. I don't know if I like that word.
Why don't you like that word?
I don't know.
It's a good word.
I need to seek to understand why you use this word wimpy.
Well, I think if you're calling somebody a wimp, it's never a nice thing.
Sure.
Right? But there are times in business when you realize you're doing something, you get to a place where you need to make a decision. Instead of making a decision to further yourself, you make a wimp decision.
Yep.
So that's what it's talking about. It's wimping out instead of failing. So
the risk of failing.
Right. There's a couple concepts that you have to accept and live by in business, which is that certain things you've been taught or may have been taught just aren't true. One is that the opposite of success. Think about it in your head. What's the opposite of success? Most people right away just said failure. That is not true in business. The opposite of success is nothing. Is no motion. Right? It's almost inertia. It's just not doing anything. Failing is part of success. You're going to have to do 10 failures or 20 failures or 50 failures or 150 failures to get your success. And that's just part of it. So when you embrace failure, you succeed in that sense. When you don't embrace action, you then are being wimpy.
Yeah.
And so this manifests. So you know what? Why don't we talked about this? Why don't we talk about some of our own experiences? Because then people can say, okay, well, hey, they've done it too. Because I have certainly wimped out.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So I can remember, this is a story with a positive ending, which I don't know that I've told you before. I started my first tech business with Dan and John, and John Keeber now owns this tech business and still running. It's called Tectonics. It was a wonderful thing we did back in 2005, but we start this business in 2005. It is the three of us in Dan's apartment. This apartment has a couch and a bed, and that was it. And no lie, we would eat ramen noodles for lunch. And if we wanted to, I'm not making this up, if we wanted to spice it up, you're going to say ill. We would take cinnamon raisin bread, and we would put the oodles and noodles on top, and that would be our sandwich. How grossed out are you?
That's all right.
Okay. so that was what we were living.
We got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So at some point we're sitting there, and Dan and John said, "Listen, you're the salesman. You got to go do the sales." And I had this moment where I just wimped out. I said, "No, let's talk about different things." At one point, I had a full freak out because we had just left jobs where we got paid every 2 weeks. And we were 20, how old am I? 25 or somewhere in there. Life is good. We're 27, 28. We were making $70,000, $80,000 a year. My rent at the time was $250.
Oh my gosh.
Right, life was good. That's
my electric bill.
Right? Life was good. I was a happy kid. And all of a sudden, I had no money coming in. So I had a full freak out moment where I said, why don't we go back and take our jobs? And John said, calm down, take a deep breath, let's give this a good shot. And so the wimp part of this was that I literally wimped out for days and weeks before I would make a sale. Just didn't want to do it, before I would even try, because I didn't want to do that part of it. It wasn't exciting to me to go get shot down. W2 world's better, I just go home and I still get paid.
Yeah.
This one was proof that maybe I sucked. So I had a huge wimp out moment. That transition, though, to they finally get me to go into the bedroom and lock the door and make phone calls. And I sit down with the phone. I pick up the phone with a cord on it. Bless you! Our first on-air sneeze. Yes!
Oh no, I sneezed.
And you sneezed into the mic.
I think I sneezed on episode 1 or 2 as well.
So you did?
I did. Sorry.
Oh, someone's ears just blew out. So I go in there, I lock the door. I have a phone with a cord on it. I remember that, so people can laugh at that. And I make my first phone call to Kathy Jackson. And I stumble and stutter and mess up and say everything wrong. I mean, I'm so nervous and just, I don't know what to say, and I got an appointment.
Oh, that's
so
so
at
awesome.
one point in my life, I was batting 1,000.
Wow.
And so that was God in that sense. Like, it was like, hey, you know what? You're going to be okay. Now, I didn't make another sale for another 131 phone calls.
Wow.
So it's just now that might be the most important concept.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky because I was 1 for 1 at one point,
Yeah.
and it was proven in my mind that this worked. But really, if you look at it, I was 2 for 131, so 1 for 60. That's how I need to make 60 calls to get an appointment.
Yeah.
So think about that, right? I made 1 call and got an appointment, and I need to make another 130 calls to get the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So 130 divided by 2 appointments is 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the problem in sales is if you are doing something and your success is in the first one, then you think it's easy. Oh, cool. But if your success is in the 65th one, maybe you won't make it there.
Right.
And so that's the problem, is that, and that's where Wimpy comes in. So,
Yep.
So that was a case of really being wimpy and then learning, you know what, when you're not wimpy, it works out. It works out better than you think most of the time for just going and doing it. And remember, I sucked on the phone. And maybe she took an appointment because she felt bad for me. So what?
She still took it.
She was actually, that business started in 2005. It is still running today. I think she's still a customer. I'll have to ask John.
Oh, that's
really fun
neat.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about you? Do you have a wimpy moment you can think of?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So when I started in sales, as I mentioned earlier, I started as a telemarketer. So I was a special education teacher, and then I transitioned into being a telemarketer for a third-party administrator. And so there are these people that have been, doing sales for flexible spending accounts and HRAs and HSAs and COBRA administration for years. And I jump in there and am so excited but so nervous. And on the second or third day, I had to start making calls, about 100 calls a day. And it was a script. So I've joked about this, that usually in the script I only made it as far as, hi, this is Cristen with, hi, this is, and then I got hung up on, of course. And then there was one person that I talked to, I don't even know which call it was in the 100 of that day, but I made it all the way through my script and the opportunity to start asking questions. And it was exciting, and I was so nervous. And mind you, I'd never really made calls before other than to, diagnosticians and therapists and parents of my students. And I love those calls, even the challenging ones. So this was unique for me. And I had someone say to me that, well, you're just a telemarketer. You're just supposed to make these calls, make contacts, and the point of what you're doing is not to make a sale or to really have a conversation because you won't know how to answer the question. And I immediately was like, yeah, they're probably right. And it got in my head. And it was just one of those things where then I had a hard time making calls. I remember Joel and I, JD, he was one of my buddies that we worked together.
Those are good initials.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. Nicknamed JD. He was awesome. Shout out. Hope you're watching this. So we would take walks around the pond and just have breaks because there was this massive pond and a sidewalk that went around it. And it was so tough some days. And so we'd have fun with it and challenge each other to do well. But that was a moment that was really challenging for me because I was really excited about how far I had gotten. And the first comment was that I was shot down for the most part for, I guess they didn't expect me to make it to that point. So then shortly after, I only had to do telemarketing for a couple weeks, which was pretty awesome. But then I got promoted. And at that point, I had a manager, Karen Kramer, who, because she saw what I was capable of and reiterated my potential to me, I then took it and ran with it. And I was so excited to apply myself and to fail forward. But initially, it certainly wasn't like that. I mean, I think being so young in it and so I had no experience at all in that. I cared about people and I wanted to help them and I wanted to help educate them, teach them. But I certainly didn't have the talk track down and the confidence. So as soon as I had someone that believed in me, it wasn't even the promotion. It was just having someone there that said, you're capable of more than this. You can do more than this. You can be impactful. You're incredible. All those words of affirmation helped me to stop being a wimp, so to say, and be more confident in failing forward.
That's first of all, I love the story. I have lots of thoughts on that. One is, my initials are JD too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we weren't talking about you.
Okay, I know, but that's why
we're talking about Joel Wright from Texas.
Joel Wright. Okay. Well, hi, Joel. Is he still in Texas?
Yeah, he is.
That's nice.
Engaged. Still.
I thought you were going to say he's gay.
No, he's engaged.
Okay, well that's good.
It's all right if he is, but he's engaged.
That is.
Lovely, lovely girl. And he still works for that same TPA, and he is killing it.
Nice.
Yeah, he's incredible. Really, it's fun to track someone's success over the years and stay in touch. So yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And two is that both of us had a scenario where somebody helped us get out of our wimp moment. Right? Like someone said, hey, go do this, or someone recognized what you're doing. So it's important too to be around good people who will help you through your wimp moment.
That's a good point. I mean, some people are capable of pulling themselves through it. But in our scenarios, I think it's because we were both so young in these new industries and excited, but at the same time, we needed someone to, well, be a mentor, which is a big piece of sales.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to get through it knowing you would have gotten through it anyway. They just accelerate it. Someone goes, hey, come over. I see the potential. Same with John for me. He said, get on the phone. You can do this. You don't have to give up on it. So it's good. I didn't think about that when we were talking about this segment, that be around good people, or be the good person for somebody else you see struggling and say, hey, you can do it.
So that was exactly it when I was hiring and training to create a sales team, and I was hiring business development representatives, which is what I started as. We didn't call it a telemarketer, we called it a BDR, business development representative, or a sales representative, ISA, right, in the world of real estate. So in hiring them, I immediately was just constantly telling them, you are so capable, you are incredible, own this day, no matter how many people hang up on you or say, stop calling me. Just know that the next person could be the person that needs your call, that wants what you have to offer, that needs to hear what you have to say. And I just couldn't help but feel that like nervousness that they felt, and wanting to be the Karen Kramer to them and reminding them of what good they were doing and what the outcome could be, that it would just take perseverance. So definitely, it's incredible how someone can cause you to replicate that and want to help people.
I've heard this name, Karen Kramer, before. You're a big fan, right?
Yeah, she is. Yep, when I look back on sales and where I am now, I will always say that Karen Kramer is the person that got me where I am, because she saw the potential that I had, and she gave me the opportunity. Any other manager probably would have let me go, and Joel as well, JD, because she didn't know what we were doing, because she took over a management position because the prior manager had been released, and she wasn't familiar with our roles. She was from a different department, and she didn't let us go. She watched us perform and then gave us an amazing opportunity. And because of her, I moved to New Jersey and became a regional sales manager, all of that, and had the confidence to transition into different companies. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So I really like that story, by the way.
Thank you.
I really like that. Let's go through now a example of failing. Right. So failure is better than wimpy. For me, it was, at one point I created the MLU, which was the Professional Ultimate Frisbee League. So for you don't know that, there's actually Professional Ultimate Frisbee. It's still around. You can, if you type in AUDL into Google, you'll find all about it. There's like teams all over the country and stuff. And at one point I created the MLU, and we had to go raise money. And so raising money is doing a presentation in front of people, investors, and having them pick you apart. Which is, it's really easy to be, I shouldn't say it's really easy to be a good investor, but it's really easy to be a judge, right? Because it takes a lot to be able to, for people to respect you as a judge, but when you're a judge, you just sit back there and pick apart people for what they do wrong. Like, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do. And then creating the presentation to raise money is not easy. That is it's just a brutal thing. So I would literally go, I did over 50 pitches in the lifetime of MLU. We raised over $5 million.
It's incredible.
I only succeeded in a handful, 3, 4, 5. Right? So 1 out of 10 I succeeded in. The worst one was the one where I'm standing there giving the presentation. I don't feel like I'm doing my best job. I'm not doing a horrible job. I'm look buttoned up. I'm being buttoned up. And the man stands up and says, I think we're maybe a little more than halfway through. Worst idea ever, worst presentation ever. And just walks out. Now, I wanted to, I'm a Marine. I wanted to brutally attack him.
Well, yeah, because that's your passion, and you're like pouring your heart out and hoping that they respect and understand it at the least, if they're not going to support you financially. That type of response is, ugh. Yeah,
but I appreciate him, because I honestly do believe this too. Going back to the Marines are horribly tough on you and yet you love every minute of it and respect it in retrospect. In retrospect, I honestly believe, looking at it now, 10 years later almost, that he was doing me a service. He was saying, this guy's got a lot of grit, and he's not that far away, but he's not there yet, so I'm gonna fire him up. Now, I honestly believe that. Now, he might have just really believed that, but to me it was too harsh when I think back for what was going on. But hey, it fueled me up. So when you are embracing failure, when someone points out your failure, you're only more determined to go fail again in a good way, or to go succeed. So you can't raise $5 million for a venture unless you're willing to get told no 45 times. Right.
It's an incredible story.
Right.
I mean, most people wouldn't have the positive response to it that you've had. I mean, the fact that you can look back on that and say that you're okay or appreciative of the fact that he responded that way. So that's incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had so much fun, and I doing the whole thing that all the failures were fun in the end. You know, you just learned all this stuff along the way and got to meet such great people. So it was a great thing. But when you know you're meant for something, and you have a vision in your head, all the failures along the way aren't that big of a deal. They really do. They drive you forward. So it's kind of fun to fail in that sense, because you know someone's going to see what you see at some point. So I guess in that sense, just think about it. You got to see something and then show people what you see.
Yeah, I love that.
How about you? What's a good fail forward moment?
So instead of talking about a moment specifically, just a generic comment that I like to make about failing forward is I completely left an industry that I was comfortable in, and I felt that I could find even more success in from a standpoint of being challenged and being able to contribute and just everything about it. And I left that for the risk of failure. And
didn't you do this twice? You did this twice. You left teaching to go to
to go into sales. Then I transitioned from sales into management, and then from management in one industry to management in a completely different industry, which is real estate. And that certainly was an incredibly exciting but very scary moment, because I was so comfortable in doing what I was doing because I had gotten good at it, and I knew a lot of people in the industry all over the world. I knew people that were in the industry that I was in. I had so many contacts, and I just knew what I was doing. I could pretty much be asked just about any question about human capital management, cloud-based technology, payroll, HR, time labor management systems, and compliance, and I felt like I would have the response or know who I could contact that could help me with the response. And so to leave that was extremely scary, and I told myself that the worst thing that was going to happen was that I would have an experience, realize what I was capable of to a different capacity, and then if I went back to doing what I was doing, that, hey, at least I tried something new. So that's the way I looked at it. But I have to say, in that process of making that jump, it was incredibly scary. But the amazing thing about it is that, as we talked about in previous episodes, is that sales is pretty much sales. Coaching, management, business support is pretty much the same regardless of what the person is selling or what industry they're working in. Then it's just a matter of getting down the terms and the acronyms and the industry-specific things.
And can you be passionate about it?
Exactly. That's a really good point. That's a really good point, to be passionate about it. And so I came into the real estate industry, and I was so excited about a change, but God, was I scared. I mean, like, still to this day, I'm like, whew, I'm doing this. And it's been, it's been a while. So it's exciting, really exciting. But so rather than a specific occurrence, just the statement of failing forward to the capacity of a completely different career shift and giving yourself the opportunity to do it. Because at the end of the day, if I hadn't done it, I'm quite confident I would have said that I wish I had. And I don't want to live my life like that.
I love it.
And so I fail forward every day. It's a learning experience, because, look, I'm working with 260 people that are all independent contractors. So they're entrepreneurs. They have the way they want to run their business. And so every day brings a new challenge, new excitement, a new type of relationship. And so failing forward every day and loving every moment of it and just learning nonstop, but embracing it, and then also maintaining that confidence that Karen Kramer helped me find. So
I love that. I really do love that story. You are a rock star.
Oh, thanks.
Without question.
Thank you.
I kind of want to give you a little smooch.
Oh. No,
That's
save
weird.
that for later. We'll save it for the love section.
Oh, which we need to get into.
Right.
So I'd love your stories or your thoughts about failing forward.
Yeah, I want to hear them.
Yeah.
Also the stories of being wimpy, right? Having that moment where you're like, I'm choosing this over the opportunity to gain success or gain experience or. So I'd love, those would be fun to hear.
Right, because if you go to the top people in any industry, they'll tell you their wimp moments. They have them. They're not embarrassed about them because they were just part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe I am more embarrassed about my wimp moments, but they're not embarrassed about they'll still tell you most of the time. They're not embarrassed about their failures because they're doing well. So they just realize it all added up to the sum of success.
Yeah, so I challenge everyone to share those. And if you can't think of a moment where you've been wimpy, then think of a moment where you've chosen weakness over the opportunity to gain more experience or to fail, where you chose safety and comfort over the potential failure.